What is up, everybody? My name is Andrew, and welcome to an update showcase, because today Space Engineers released the huge Apex Survival update. This is perhaps the biggest update in recent memory that's added to the game, because this changes everything that has to do with survival. The Apex update has, of course, a DLC like most of their updates do, but it also has a ton of free content, and we're gonna go over the free content first. Don't mind, I kind of ran out of space for my free, there we go. But let's go over the free content, and then we'll move on to the DLC just to see what we have. Okay, so starting off, the Apex Survival update adds something huge to the game, which is food. And the new blocks here all have to do with food. So we're gonna go over all the gameplay changes, but first I wanna go over the new blocks just so you have an idea of what we're getting here. There are 4 new blocks. This first one is an algae farm. It's very similar to an oxygen farm of the game. It produces algae based on direct sunlight. So you give this thing sun and it produces algae for you. We'll go over what you use that for in a second. Then we have a farm plot. Yes, I said it, a farm plot in Space Engineers. This is a farm plot where you can grow crops, and we'll go over why you would want to do that in just a second. Then we have an irrigation system which converts ice into water, which can be used with these farm plots. Again, we'll go over in just a second what you would use that for. And finally, we have a food processor which turns food into food. No, okay, it turns ingredients into food. It's very similar to an assembler. If you go inside it and then go to production, you can see that it's turning, essentially, you see on the right here, the grain, vegetables, algae, insect meat, all that stuff into edible food. For instance, you have cooked mammal meat, you've got a fruit bar, you've got frontier stew, green pellets, a steak dinner, you've got all this flatbread, even chili. Oh my gosh, there's all this stuff. And yes, we'll go over what we need that for in just a second as well. So all 4 of these blocks are food related blocks, things that you would use to create food. But why would you need food? Well, they added food into Space Engineers. And so first of all, I'd like to pull your attention to the bottom left of the screen where you see the health, the energy, the oxygen, and the hydrogen of the character. You'll notice there's actually a 5th bar down there, which is hunger. Yes, we have a hunger bar in Space Engineers now. And if you've played any other survival games or The Sims or anything like that, you'll know that the hunger bar typically goes down as you become more hungry. And the only way to bring it back up is to eat food. Well, that's a new survival thing in Space Engineers. Starting with this update, and this is all optional by the way, all of this can be configured with a setting when you're creating your world, but you now have to manage this food bar by, farming, scavenging, or even hunting for food, which you can then use the food processor to make that. Once you have a little bit of food, let's say for instance this kelp crisp right here, what you can do is right click that to consume it, and that's gonna bring your food bar up. You can see it's now going 52, 53, and that's gonna bring it up. Now, what happens if your food bar reaches 0? Well, you start taking damage. So naturally, you don't want your food bar to reach 0, but it actually goes further than that. There are debuffs once your food bar reaches below 20%. At 20% and below, every 1% you go down will decrease your movement speed a little bit more until you can no longer sprint, and you're just kind of forced to walk around. It's a really big debuff. You want to keep that bar full, or at least above 20% if you're playing with hunger. So let's talk about your food ingredients. So there are 9 major ones. There's algae, which you can use to make kelp crisp, which is what we just ate. There's the farming things, which are essentially fruit, grain, mushrooms, or vegetables. And then there are the hunting ingredients, which are mammal meat and insect meat, which you can hunt from either insects or wolves. Those both count as 2 because you can have it as raw or as cooked. If you go in here, you'll see some of the recipes require raw meat. For instance, the cooked mammal meat here requires the raw meat, whereas other things like a burrito would require the cooked version of the meat. So you have to cook it and then make the burrito like that. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the farming aspect. So you've got, of course, the algae and the farm plots. Let's see what those look like in practice. So the algae one, since it is very similar to an oxygen farm, you might want to use it with a solar alignment sort of thing, where it aims directly at the sun. You see, these ones right here have 4 bars. These ones only have 3 because they're not on the sun alignment script right here. So you can absolutely make this more efficient. And as those go, they'll start generating you algae. So if I go into here and look at my algae farms, you'll see that we have algae. Let's go collect a little bit of that. So the algae thrown inside the food processor can create you some kelp crisps right there. So every kelp crisp requires 4 algae, and that's gonna be a very good early game starting version of food if you wanna keep yourself sustained. But algae only fills you 12%, and there are better ways to do that. So let's take a look at the farms, because the farms are probably what you're a little more interested in. So these are farms right here, and there are 4 things you can farm. There's fruit, there's grain, there is vegetables, and there is mushrooms right here. Now, when you have a farm set up, they also require water. So that's what the irrigation system right here is for. What you do is you supply your irrigation system with a little bit of ice. You'll see this one has plenty of ice right there. And that will in turn, when piped into the farms, supply them with water. Okay, and as they're supplied with water, as long as they're not dying from one of the many ways you can kill your plants, they'll start growing. And once they're at 100%, you can, of course, harvest them, or they'll get thrown into your inventory right there. You see, we got 2 grain right there from that harvest. We'll get a little bit of, oh no, this one's actually not full. This is gonna require another, I guess, 35 seconds right here. But these ones are full, so we can go ahead and harvest that. We've got 3 vegetables, and then this one over here, we will get 3 mushrooms as well. So that's your basic look at farming. And like any other farming game, little farming simulator stuff, once you have your items right there, you can convert them back into seeds. If we run over to our food processor here and toss them in. What the? Did you guys hear that? I think that was a wolf. Okay, I'll go into hunting in just a second, and we'll use that wolf as an example. We can, of course, throw our seeds into there, and then in the production, we have a harvesting tab where we can convert that back into seeds. So it looks like 1 vegetable will create 1 seed, 1 mushroom will create 1 seed. So you get more than 1 from farming, and then you can create more seeds, and that's how you can create your infinite farm sustainability. Now that is a look at farming. Now, how do you get the seeds in the first place? That's a good question. Thank you for asking. Well, you can actually find the seeds in some of the encounters. By the way, there are more encounters added as of this update, so keep an eye out for those. But in addition to that, you can go around the planet and find seeds as well. Specifically, the Earth-like planet, Pertam, and Alien will spawn seeds on the ground. The Earth-like is very rich in vegetation, whereas Pertam is a little more sparse, I can't speak, in vegetation, and the Alien planet is very rich in the good old mushrooms. As you're wandering around the planet, you're gonna wanna look for these bright green little things right here that kind of stick out like a sore thumb. You press F on them, and those are gonna give you, 1 fruit, for instance, or something like that. You can see another one right over here. Like I said, in this savanna especially, they stick out like a sore thumb, and you can just fly from one to another. But of course, in a green area, it might be a little bit harder to find. And then if you're looking for mushrooms, you're gonna wanna find it's like a log with mushrooms on them. But anyways, just like we did before, that's gonna give you the actual fruit. You can go in there and you can go into harvesting and turn that into seeds so that you can start farming. Now let's talk about a couple of perils of farming. Well, of course, water is required. So if you start farming without ice and the irrigation system here, your plants will die. That's bad. But there are a couple of other things that can kill your plants as well. For instance, a vacuum can kill your plants. So if you're in space and you lose pressurization, that can kill your plants. In addition to that, extreme temperatures can kill your plants. So that's why you might want to have a pressurization system. This is one such example, a little pressurization system where we have this farm and then we have some vents there to keep it pressurized. Now, of course, on the Earth-like planet, it's not a big issue, but if you have some storms that create extreme heat, those might kill your plants, and I'll show that off in just a second. Like, for instance, I don't know if extreme heat exists on the Earth-like planet, but let's say there is an extreme heat storm. You'll see all of my plants start to die right there because it's extremely hot. You can see in the bottom right, it's an inferno. But my nice little plants in here are very nice and secure with their pressurization. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. I would recommend pressurizing. On the Earth-like planet, it's not terrible, but on other planets, especially that might have some crazy storms, pressurize your stuff, guys. And once the storm has passed, since I don't think I've shown off actually planting things, you can press F on a plant plot and you can plant your things by clicking on it and then clicking plant just like that. Bada bing, bada boom, they're planted. Very nice. All right, I think that's everything for farming. Let's talk about hunting. So hunting, you can hunt 2 things. You can hunt wolves or you can hunt spiders. Now I heard wolves earlier. Yeah, there's a wolf right there. And there's no spiders here, but there are spiders on the alien planet and Pertam. So if you find a wolf or something like that and you need to hunt it, what you need to do is go up to it. And I probably don't need to explain this, but the wolf will probably attack you. Doesn't actually care about me for some reason. At that point, it's just a dog. I don't know if I want to hunt a dog. I have heard people say that they're really looking forward to modders creating different animals that you can hunt because wolves, I don't know that they're the nicest thing to hunt. But anyways, close your eyes, everybody. We're hunting a wolf real quick. There we go. If you hunt a wolf and are evil like I just was, you can actually grab some raw meat from that. And then with that, you can go and cook that with the food processor. So just like before, you toss it into the food processor right there, you go into production, and now you can cook some mammal meat right here. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then once that's processed, you can either eat it as is, or you can go ahead and make something different, like a steak dinner, for instance, which requires everything and gives you 100% fill value, or a burrito, which requires grain and stuff and gives you, I don't know, an 89% fill value, or lasagna. You can do a lot of stuff with it, so that's very nice. Final notes on farming and hunting. For farming, you can actually automate the collection of these farm stuff because you can use a collector on a subgrid, and if you do that, it will collect the farm output, which is one way you can automate the collecting. I'm not sure if you can automate the placing of stuff. I don't know if there's a way to automate what I just did there, but as far as the collecting goes, you can automate that. And then finally, there are a couple of special food items that you cannot craft. Those are not inside here, but they are inside encounters. Not all of them are healthy to eat, but you are always welcome to try. All right, that is the big part of this update. That's the food and hunting and farming part of this update, but there's a little bit more. Let's talk about buffs and death. Well, in Space Engineers for a long time, death has not really been, ain't no thing, you know? You die, you just respawn somewhere, it's not really a problem. Well, now, if you enable buffs, there is now a reason that you want to stay alive, because every day that you survive, you gain buffs to a lot of your stats. And I'll show you right here with Shift B, you'll see my current buffs. So I've stayed alive for 1 day, which means my maximum health is 110%, my welding speed is 110%, my grinding speed is 110, my movement speed's a little bit faster, and my oxygen speed is a little bit better, or my oxygen consumption is a little bit less. So just by staying alive, my character is buffed a little bit, and this goes up to 5 days. This right here is a list of all the buffs that you get as you progress over 5 days of surviving, which is really great. We love these buffs, but what happens if you die? Well, let me show you. Oh no, unfortunately I've passed away, just standing here. It was natural causes. When you respawn, if you have this setting enabled, all of your stats get immediately set to 20%. So all mine were 20, I just picked up my stuff, so it set my oxygen and hydrogen back up. But you start with everything at 20%, which is a problem because now we need to eat, we're a little bit slower. We can't run, we can't sprint at all. You see my hunger thing flicking right there. So yeah, that's what the meaningful death is in Space Engineers as of this update. If you die, your stats get reset. And also, hey, where are my buffs? They're gone. So I do want to reiterate, all of these settings though are optional. You don't have to enable them if you don't want to, but if you have this enabled, dying has a consequence. Now, let's talk about weather and radiation after I eat some kelp crisp because I'm starving, or maybe I'll eat a steak dinner so that my thing goes all the way up. So one huge new thing that they've added to Space Engineers is radiation. Now, naturally, Earth doesn't have a lot of radiation, so let me go somewhere that does. Oh, look, it's Europa. How did we get here so quickly? Well, now, guys, Europa's radioactive. Let's just cut to the chase. Europa is radioactive. And if we look in the bottom left, you'll now see that there's this exposure level that's slowly ticking up. That's because Europa, the closer you get to it, the more radiation you accrue. Now, there are a lot of radiation sources in the game. This is just one that's very easy to show off. Now, small amounts of radiation aren't really that big of a problem, but as you get higher and higher in the radiation exposure level, you'll start noticing problems. For instance, 75 is a crucial threshold where you'll start taking damage. We are now taking damage from radiation, and this is bad. Our health is slowly going to tick down, and it's going to go faster and faster as we approach 100%. When we reach 100%, it's going to go extremely fast. Now, luckily, they added something new to the game called an anti-radiation medkit. If you find one of these, you can go ahead and use it, and it's going to bring your radiation down. Now, we're not going to stop taking damage until it goes under 75%, but now that it's below 75%, we're good. Now, that's going to last for about 10 minutes, and we're immune to radiation in that time. But, in fact, I see a little icon that they added next to the health bar, which is very nice as well. The thing about that anti-radiation medkit is you cannot build it. You can only find it in encounters or, drops or anything like that. Actually, I don't know if you can find it in drops. Don't take my word for that. But now that we're immune to radiation, we can of course run around Europa and it's just fine and we don't have to worry about anything else. That's just one source of radiation. Let's talk about a couple of the other sources of radiation other than just Europa. Well, now that I'm back in the safety of Earth, I can talk about what's behind this store. And this is a very fun thing, a very dangerous thing. This is a reactor that's been damaged. You'll notice as I get close to this reactor, my exposure starts to go up, and it actually looks like it's doing 2 steps up, 1 step back. The bigger the reactor, the more reactors you have that are damaged, the more your exposure level will go up. So if I stand next to this thing, it's going to keep exposing me to radiation until this is fixed or destroyed or anything like that. So reactors are another way that you can get exposed to radiation. As I walk away from this, you'll notice our radiation is going to start to go down and it's going to stop going up, which is good for us. What's another way you can get radiation? Well, how about solar radiation? This setting is disabled by default, but if you enable it, there's a hardcore mode essentially, is what they're kind of viewing it as, where the sun will cause you radiation. The Earth-like planet, the alien planet, Triton, and Titan give you full protection from this effect, and Mars and Pertam give you partial protection from this, but space does not give you any protection, and neither does the moon, for instance. So if you have this enabled, you will start taking radiation as long as you are within direct view of the sun. However, notably, if something is between you and the sun, you will not get radiation. If the sun cannot see you, the radiation cannot hit you in this case, which makes it very cool. You can kind of hide in the shade on some of these. So like I said, that's more of a hardcore setting. This is disabled by default, and if you want to enable it, it's called solar radiation, and it just gives you one more thing to look out for, but it's kind of neat. And the final thing that can give you radiation are storms. They completely redid some of the storms in this, and I don't even know if this storm can spawn on the Earth-like planet, but I put it here anyway. This one right here will give you radiation. There are problems if you're in a storm on some of the planets, and in fact, look at those visuals. They're beautiful. You cannot see anything, which is amazing. Now, you can always take cover if you need to, so let's go and hide inside this thing. Oh my gosh, I've been struck by debris. That's one way that you can lose health, and in fact, I have a cheat setting on right now. That is this one right here where I'm invulnerable. That's why I didn't lose any health. Oh no! I have absolutely murdered all my plants just by breaking the pressurization in here. But at least I'm not taking any more radiation because I'm protected by this from the storm. Oh man, it's loud out there. That brings me to my next thing, by the way, which is that a lot of the storms have been reworked. That is the visuals and the effects. So here's a list of all the storms, but looking at this chart right here, you can see all of these storms. You know, they have wind modifiers, solar modifiers, temperature modifiers, which can absolutely affect your plants. If you have freezing or an inferno, that'll mess with your plants in ways that you do not want. They can affect your breathability, which can also affect your plants, by the way. They can have lightning, they can have radiation, or they can even give you damage, where you take damage over time. And then, of course, ones that have these high winds can also have debris that'll come and strike you, like we just got struck. You'll see if I stand out here for long enough, we're gonna get a piece of debris that comes and strikes us. Ow! See, I just got struck by debris. It took about 1/4 of my health away. So yeah, it can be a little bit hazardous now when you're outside without any cover. All right, enough of that. I think the only other thing I want to mention with weather is meteors, and that is that meteors no longer target you. They're more like an environmental thing. So if you had meteors flying by, you know, I'll show a picture of that right now. They just kind of fly by and they don't do voxel damage anymore, which is kind of cool. All right, so with that, I'm very hungry. Let me eat some meat. There we go. With that, that is all the stuff that's being added to the base game. So everything that I just talked about for the last 2 hours, that's all base game stuff, okay? So 4 blocks, but a load of gameplay changes that absolutely affect the early game with, you know, having to worry about food, making algae, trying to get some farms set up, or even doing a little bit of hunting as you have those wolves and spiders trying to get you. To late game where you want to set up maybe some ways that you can make these really nice steak dinners. I mean, I can imagine in the late game you would want to not have to worry about it, so you'd want to have these steak dinners or something. But anyways, yes, that's all stuff in the base game. All those survival update stuff, you know, the meaningful death, the buffs, the weather stuff, the radiation, all base game. Now, let's take a look at DLC land, where we can take a look at some of the new blocks that they're adding. All right, for starters, we're getting a bunch of Type 2 variations of the ship tools right here. So these are Type 2. If you remember, the turrets had a Type 2 version where it's just the same thing, but it looks a little bit different, maybe higher fidelity or something like that. This is a Type 2 welder right here. You'll see it's kind of inspired by like a factory sort of looking welder. And we also have a small ship variation right there. So they're just the same thing as a normal welder. They just have a different look right there. The same thing with the grinder. We have a Type 2 version of the grinder. This is what it looks like in large grid, and this is what it looks like in the small grid. And then finally, we have a Type 2 version of the drill. That's what it looks like in the large grid versus the small grid. As far as I can tell, there's no advantage to using one over the other, the Type 2 versus the original. They are all the same thing. There's no speed increase. My radiation resistance is beginning to decrease, apparently. I think that's a bug because I died since I used the radiation resistance thing, so it shouldn't be telling me, because it's already gone, you know what I mean? But anyways, yes, those are our Type 2 variants of the ship welder grinder and drill right here. We also have a type 2 variant of the ore detector. It's a little bit animated right here, looks kind of cool. Now this comes in the large grid and in the small grid. I believe it's the same size. Yeah, that right there is the small grid variant, and that's the large grid variant of the vanilla version. So it's very, it's the same exact size. It's just animated, and it's a cool type 2 thing. We also have a type 2 variant of the survival kit right here. So this is what it looks like. What are the main differences? I guess I should have brought out the vanilla versions as well so that we could see the differences there. But it's the same size in the large grid, although I'm noticing that this one right here has a top connector, whereas this one has side connectors. This one's missing the side connectors. It also has a bottom connector on that one, whereas the vanilla one doesn't. So the type 2 variant of the survival kit has top and bottom connectors, whereas the vanilla has side connectors, which is interesting. Same thing with the small grid variant. It's got the connectors on the top and the bottom, whereas the vanilla one has the connectors on the sides right there. So it's kind of a vertical version of a survival kit. This is very interesting. So there we go, a bunch of type 2 additions to our repertoire that we can now use. Very awesome. In addition to that, we have a half block version of an oxygen farm, as well as a half block version of an algae farm. So these can be used in lieu of the normal oxygen farm or the algae farm. You saw that the normal algae farm is about that big right there. So if you wanted a half version of that, it looks like this. Two different, we have half block variations of these. Next up, we have the inset planter. I think this is just a functional block, just looking at it. Originally when I saw this, I thought this was a planter, like a farm plot, but inset, so you could put your farm stuff on here, but there's no place to put your farming items. And also there's no connectors on it. So I haven't put any plants in here and it looks like that already. So I think it's just a decorative block, which again, I mean, it's very cool. I love the look. I think as well, it might have a light. Yeah, the inset planter, I'm looking at this. I can't really see the light very well because I have lights everywhere else. Let me make it red. Yeah, okay, so it's got a light in the middle of it as well. So you can use it as a light if you want to also, and you can light that up. Next up, we have two very cool ones. These are inset terrariums. We have a desert variation, which has a couple of bugs flying around. You can see like a little, I don't even know what that is, like a beetle, flying beetle sort of thing. We've got a butterfly in there, and we have a couple ants in there as well, just kind of, you know, vibing out, doing their own thing. You can now have bugs on your ship, which is cool. And then we also have a jungle variant of that where we have a, you know, a monarch butterfly right there. We have a blue butterfly, we have a snail. Let's see what else we have. We got, of course, our mushrooms. And is that all we have? It's possible there are some hidden things in here that I don't see. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we'll take, you know what? Let's take an in-depth look. How would life be if I were a simple lizard sitting upon this log, looking out at an engineer, looking inside my terrarium? I'm just wondering if there's anything kind of hidden in here, because I feel like I would have hidden like a miniature plushie right back here or something like that. That would have been very funny. But anyways, yeah, let's take a look at our snail over here. Ooh, look at that. Beautiful little snail. We have a little flower over here. Oh, I like it. A little place you can hide back here. Very nice. You know what? I would really like for there to be a lizard in here. Where's our, you know what? Keen owns good AI. Where's our lizard AI? Where's our butterfly AI? Why can't they like fly around and do their thing? It actually looks like there are lights on this as well. So if I go in here, yes, there are lights. Ooh, that's actually very cool. I love that. So the lights control this kind of border around here, which looks almost like the emissives thing that they have, but it's also got a radius that you can bump up, and that gives you some light around there. Oh, I love these. These are so awesome. They're very similar to the aquarium, but land instead of water. I'm gonna use these so often. Actually, I wonder, do these require, yep, they do indeed require a gravity component. So I'm willing to bet that they require the same things that the aquarium uses. All right, anyways, that's enough oogling at the animals. Let's go up here. We can't run anymore because we're now starving again. Let me eat another meat. Here we go. Another addition to the Apex DLC is that we have these storage bins right here that they've added. So very similar to the crates and the cargo, or whatever they're called, the freight items. We have these, you know, little pallets that you can throw things in. The little smaller inventory right there, and of course the smallest of them all. Very, very nice little functional blocks that you can throw things in. And I hope that these are used, you know, in encounters and stuff like that. It's gonna be very interesting. Next up, we have the conduit blocks. These are like wire looking things. We have a normal straight one. We have a broken one, which puts out particles. We have a one that's kind of like a junction. We have a light version. We have a 90-degree angle. We have another 90-degree angle, but that way. We have a 90-degree angle, but that way. We have a 90-degree angle, but this way. We have one that has little boxes right there, and then we have one that kind of swerves up and swerves down. And you can actually see that I've used these. Okay, wolves sound like aliens in this. That is very unsettling. But anyways, you can see I've used it right here. I've shown off a little bit of what it can do. So there's just very cool little look right there that you can throw around your base. Yep, we do indeed have wolves. Finally, the last thing that they've added as part of this DLC are 3 new signs that you can use. You've got a cold sign, you've got a radiation sign, and you've got a mess hall sign, and those come in large and small grid variants, which is very nice. Yep, we're gonna have the wolves howling at us for a long time. You know what they need to add is being able to domesticate wolves. That'd be really cool. And having dogs. But anyways, finally they've added to one of the existing DLCs that had this door. They've added an inverted version of this door. So before you used, and there's actually nothing behind that, it's just a door that goes into nothing. But before, there used to be a problem because if you wanted to invert this, you would have to sort of upside down it like that, but that wouldn't really work very well because it's only one way, right? There's no, you can't like walk this way. It looks a little weird. But now if you wanted to create an airlock with this, you can put one this way and then you can get the inverted version of it and you can put it, if I can figure out how to do this way right there. And now you have a little bit of an airlock with those two. So anyways, those are all of the DLC blocks. Okay, the wolf is inside the base walking around DLC land. Oh, he's trying to attack me. Okay, no worries, we can fly. Okay, I think before the reason he wasn't attacking me is because I had untargetable turned on as part of the creative stuff. But anyways, yeah, those are all of our DLC blocks for the Apex DLC. I would like to point out as well that I'm going to be doing a giveaway for this DLC. So if you're interested in joining that, I have 3 keys to give away. There will be a link below in the description where you can enter to win. There's nothing required for you to enter. I just need your email address, I guess, so that I know who to give the keys to if you win. But other than that, yeah, that's one way that you can get these DLCs. Thank you, Keen, for supplying those. Why do they keep telling me my radiation resistance is beginning to fade? That's very weird. But anyways, yeah, lots of updates to this one. This is an insanely feature-packed update, most of the stuff being on the free side, with the addition of the entire food system where you can farm, you can hunt. Those guys are gonna come get me, I feel like. Let me just do something like that so they can't get me. Yeah, all the stuff where you can farm, you can hunt, and you can scavenge for food, and you can of course make food in the food processor. Apparently this is all very moddable, so I'm very excited to see what people come up with in terms of other crops that you can get, in terms of other foods that you can do, and of course in terms of things that you can hunt that are not wolves or spiders. I think that'd be very cool to see. Heck, even being able to domesticate your own animals and like reproduce them or something would be really, really cool and a huge addition to the game. But anyways, in addition to that, there's the buff system, which adds all the, well, we don't have any, which adds buffs the longer you survive, as well as the meaningful death system, which resets all your stats to 20%. And then there are the radiation and weather changes, which make it so that you take radiation when you're not on the Earth-like planet, for instance, or in storms, or whenever you're around one of these damaged reactor blocks or anything like that. And of course, the enhanced weather system that adds crazy new weather visuals and new weather effects like this heavy fog where you literally cannot see over the hill that you're on. It's kind of crazy. But anyways, yeah, that's going to be the end of this showcase video. I'm really excited to see what people come up with as far as like the farms that they make, the automated harvesting that people do and stuff like that. I think it's going to be really cool to see what the community puts out with relation to this update. But anyways, that's going to be the end of this update showcase video. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. In my opinion, this is the biggest update we have seen in a very long time, but let me know what you think as well. What do you think about the farming? What do you think about the new radiation stuff? What do you think about the new buff system and anything like that? And how about the DLC? What do you think about the offerings that are in the DLC? Is it worth it? Is it one of the top 3 DLCs? Is it one of the bottom 3 DLCs? Let me know. But anyways, with that, that's going to be the end of this showcase video. I really hope you enjoyed. Drop a like if you did, a dislike If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button if you'd like to get notifications for when videos go live and stuff like that. And of course, if you'd like to become a YouTube member or Patreon, there are links below in the description where you can do that. You'll get early access to videos. You'll get your name in the end credits right here, and you might even get a shout out at the end of the video. So the people we're going to shout out at the end of this video are Queen Danny, Colin Graves, and Heretical John. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you everyone for your support who's watching this. And I will see you all in the next video.